Hello. Welcome to the Community of Christ podcast, Faith Unfiltered. My name is Susan Oxley, and I'm your host today for this episode of Climate Brewing, the series that focuses on the climate change and the kind of solutions that can help mitigate the climate emergency we face. I'm recording from Seattle, Washington, with my friend Lorrie Long from Lamoni, Iowa. Lorrie and I are members of the climate support group that meets twice a month. Lorrie grew up on a ranch in Wyoming with a wood-burning stove and has been passionate about nature and the earth ever since. I recently found out that she has joined an organization, Lamoni Area Green Team, that is spreading the word about climate issues and making a difference in her local area. So I've invited Lorrie to share with me today about the kind of work they are doing and how she is helping. Lorrie, welcome to Climate Brewing.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate you asking me to share with you in this way. You're right. I am passionate about what we can do to love the earth, our home. I grew up in northeastern Wyoming, lived the most important part of my life, as far as I'm concerned, on a ranch, kind of down in a valley in northeastern Wyoming, which is pretty rugged country. And my mom and my dad and my 3 siblings, 2 older brothers and 1 younger sister, and myself were living in a little cabin there, wood-burning stove. And this is back in the 1940s, 1950s. And I just give you a little bit of background as to why I'm so interested in climate change and the issues that have to do with our earth. And when I would sit up on the rim rocks above our little cabin where we lived and look out over the country, I felt God's spirit there. And so it nurtured me. But I think because of that too, my love of nature has just always been there. But over time, it's gotten stronger, especially when I see what's happening to our earth and understand the relationship that we have. I always had high respect for the beauty of nature and the nature itself, but didn't realize how important our stewardship was of it. So as I've gotten older now, I'm 82 years of age, I've become increasingly convinced that we have a responsibility. It's God's created earth, but it's our home, and we are given the responsibility to take care of it if we want to have a good place to grow and live. And so that's why I get involved in things like climate change, the Green Team here in Lamoni, but, the Climate Change North American group, all that I've learned from that. And become increasingly concerned, how do we help others understand, our responsibility there? And so I'm pretty busy. I'm involved in a lot of community activities in Lamoni. So
tell me about the organization that you are now a part of and how you got involved in it.
Yeah. So the organization is Lamoni Area Green Team, and that's Lamoni, Iowa. It began because one person in Lamoni, Steve Smith, was interested in doing something that would focus on climate change and how we can do a better job of taking care of the earth, our home, the earth. So he spread the word that he was going to get the group started. He offered us the opportunity to join, and we ended up having about 10 people. We have now about 10 people in the group. And just last week, we had a new one, my neighbor, who joined in with us. So a good group to get started. We're new. We've only had 3 of the major meetings so far. And when I say major meetings, I mean the entire group. So one of the first things that Steve wanted to do was to have us focus on different areas of climate change. And so we ended up with 3 different areas. He had us collaborate with him to decide what those would be. So the 3 areas are the Lamoni Municipal Utilities Action Group, the Ecological Practices / Conservation Action Group, and the Community Education Action Group. And I happen to be a member of the Community Education Action Group. There are 4 of us that are part of that committee. We call this a committee. And so I can share with you a little bit about what each one of those are focused on.
That would be lovely. Yes, please do.
Okay. Yeah. So, the goal is to educate and take action to improve the Earth's environment of all 3 of our groups. But we each have a different focus. So the Lamoni Municipal Utilities, which we abbreviate as LMU, is working with our utility organization here in Lamoni. Some members that are in that group also have relatives who are part of they're like the Lamoni City Council. One member has her mother who's on the Lamoni City Council. Another one is a member of the Lamoni Planning and Zoning Committee, so already invested in the community themselves. So some of the things that they're exploring, now my group has met 2 times, and I suspect that's probably true of the other small groups as well. So like I say, we're new. We're generating ideas right now, kind of doing some brainstorming. So what they're looking at, for one, revising Lamoni's regressive rate schedules, electricity and gas, to promote conservation practices. So currently, the electric rate schedule uses a total reduction 49% less per kilowatt hour. Another one of their focus is the adoption of net metering policies to encourage homeowners to use solar panels. The Lamoni Municipal Utilities isn't so eager to do that because they want the money to come to them. So this is a challenge for this group to be able to talk with the LMU.
In Lamoni, are there any restrictions on putting up solar panels? It sounds like there might be from what you just said.
There's not so much restriction, I think, as it is that we have, for example, one member, David DeBarth, who has solar panels on his house. He's one of the first people in Lamoni to put them up. But the city doesn't encourage it because they want, the income to come to them rather than through those solar panels. So he can sell his extra energy to the Lamoni Municipal Utilities, but they only pay him a minute amount of money for that. But if he needs to purchase back from them, he's charged quite a bit more. So, they're discouraging the solar panels, the renewable energy. But we're hoping that, this team, this committee can find ways to talk with them or find, options of how they can maybe make some changes there. A third one is to create a solar garden for Lamoni. And we do have some example solar gardens that we're going to be looking at, in order to, implement that. And then the last one that they've identified so far, in conjunction with the community education group, which is what I'm part of, they want to develop an energy auditing program for Lamoni homeowners. So, in the church, we've talked about doing the audit as well in the church. So that's kind of where that group is focused. Yeah. Okay, so the second committee is the ecological practices / conservation group. Some things that they're looking at, and again, I've got 4 listed here just to give you some sense of where they're headed. Plastics. So, what can we do to use less plastics? How can we recycle better using the city's recycling program? We do have one. How can we reuse bags for shopping? How can we utilize the Optimus Bottle Redemption Program? So we have an Optimus Club in Lamoni, if you know about them.
Yes.
They do have they have a big trailer where anyone from community can toss in their plastic bottles, and then they recycle them. And the money that comes back into the community is used for the youth of the community. So,
well done.
Those are just some areas that one area that they're looking at. Also looking at lighting, just, taking out those fluorescent lights and using LED lights instead. So that's an area that, those may not be big things, but if nothing else, they're going to educate people of the community of the importance of looking at things of that sort. A third one, they are investing the use of the geothermal heat pumps. I have one myself, so I've had some experience with it. And we've got another member of our team who just currently put in, it's a water heating thermal furnace that he's using and for his hot water heater. So there's some experience in the use of that, but how can we encourage others as well?
How does that work? What is a geothermal heating unit?
Yeah, so the geothermal that I have is that they have dug down into the earth in my backyard and they've placed these pipes down underneath. And so the earth temperature is more consistent down there. So when it gets very cold out or very hot in the summer, then you get more of a common heat that comes through there, and it reduces the extra energy that you need from the utility company. So I don't know as much about the water heating, inline water heating system, which is what the member of our team is using now, just recently put in. But understanding it just uses the hot water to create that heat instead of the earth, So what I've got is the earth. But yeah, so it's just a way to conserve and provide heat without using fossil fuels or, the electricity, that kind of thing. So good thing to look at.
Sounds ideal and very simple.
No, it's not bad. It costs a little money up front, but you kind of regain that as you pay your utility bills at a reduced rate as it comes in. So the last point that this team is currently working on is reaching out to Graceland University students regarding the liquid salt generating system. I don't know that much about it myself, but there was a member of that team who understands thorium. And so he's very committed to believing that that's a resource that we ought to be exploring. And so there is an organization at Graceland where students do some exploration on things like that. So they're hoping, they can get some interest out there, for that purpose. So, which would be great. So any questions about that one?
Sounds fantastic. I'm impressed.
Okay. So the Community Education Action Group that I'm a part of, like I said, we've met 2 times now. And at our last meeting, we brought in a new member who's enthusiastic and young. So we were delighted to have Karis join us. So we're focused on what can we do to help our community population love the earth. I mean, honestly, if you're going to do anything, if you have the heart to make changes, you've got to love the earth. So, some things that we've considered for educating our community is to have like a movie night and, just kind of some way to introduce to community members why we need to pay attention to climate change and taking care of our earth. And that's one way to do it. We find that a lot of the members in Lamoni, a lot of the population in Lamoni don't even think much about climate change. They just don't talk about it, don't think about it. In mid-United States, we here are kind of protected. We don't have the fires like California has. We don't have the big floods and, humongous hurricanes, that kind of thing. And so I think for that reason, there's less concern about it. So we're wanting to generate, some concern there, some understanding.
Sure, because you talk about the things that you care about.
Yep. Yeah. And so one of the other activities that we're beginning to get put into place. So we have a small little restaurant in Lamoni, we call it the Linden Street Coffee Shop. And we find that there's groups that will come in there and sit together and chat and eat their food, whatever they order. We've got a women's knitting group. We've got another women's group, not sure what they're involved in. We've got a men's group that come in there. So what we are doing and have already initiated it, we're creating some discussion topics that will focus them on caring for the earth. And so they have little tent tops that sit on the table, and we're looking at putting those questions inside that tent top because it's open so that people can reach in and pull out, and there'll be options. They can look at several of those topics and decide maybe one of them they want to talk about. Our hope is it'll just help them become more aware as they talk together. So it sounds relatively simple, but it's interesting. There's always challenges when you try to get something started. But our new member, Karis, my neighbor, she is very good at technology, and so she has created the QR code on a little card that will allow people, if they find some interest, they can, take that picture of that little QR code and go to our website. We do have a website, a Green Team website, so they can learn more and have more resources available to them to learn about the issues that are surrounding, care of the earth. So that's another thing. Another one where we want to help our youth focus on eco practices, such as, not littering, picking up trash, turning the water off when you're brushing your teeth, using eco-ed books as rewards. So we know there's a lot of children's books out there that are beautifully illustrated, and that would be a great way to help our students, our children, to become educated about caring for the earth. So that's another area, just thinking about children. And so I'm not so much involved with that one in particular, but those who are looking at talking to teachers at the school too, as well, to see if they can get some support from them with working with the youth that way. We have Earth Day activities coming up here. April 22nd is Earth Day, so we intend to do something that's going to be allowing people to come in and volunteer to help care for the earth on Earth Day. We have some nice trails in Lamoni that used to be a railroad track, and so they're paved now. And we would like to see some trash containers at the end of the trails. So when we walk those trails, and I am a walker, so I walk them often, if we find trash along the trail, we'll pick it up. But if you don't have any place to put that trash, you have a tendency just to let it lie. So we want to encourage the city to put those trash containers up so people will know they're there and pick up that trash, when it falls out of somebody's backpack.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. Can't believe anybody would ever toss it out, but we want to find a way to keep the earth clean, to promote that. So another one that we've explored, and we haven't really progressed a whole lot on this, but we definitely have given it some thought, is to do a clothing deposit bin where people who have clothing that's worn out or maybe has stains on it, they don't wear it anymore, it's ready to go to the trash. But instead of going to the trash, we want to encourage them to come to our thrift center and drop it in a bin, and then we will take it to a place that can repurpose that old clothing. And often they will tear it into strips and make it available to do whatever you do with pieces of clothing like that, so that it's repurposed rather than just burned, rather than just trashed out.
So, for instance, you might take those strips of clothing and turn it into a rag rug, or weave it into a purse or something of that nature.
Yep.
And And there are places that do that, or would that be for just individuals to come and collect those? Or
We would probably take it to places that actually do that. Lamoni is about a little over an hour from Des Moines, which is city, or Kansas City. It's a little further to Kansas City, but there are places like that in the bigger cities available. So that's what our intent is, just to locate those places, and maybe there might be someone who could even come down and pick it up. Once our bin is, enough filled. We do already have a thrift center where people bring clothing that are not just clothing, but furniture, all kinds of cookware, all kinds of things for repurposing. And so I work there at the thrift center as well. I'm the washerwoman, so I've got a big sink. We don't wash clothes, but we will wash, pots and pans. We wash all kinds of things, toys, children's toys, and, high chairs, and just a number of different items that come through there. Mm-hmm. So we're hopeful. I mean, that's kind of the gist of what we've done so far, and we're new.
So you personally, Lorrie, are on this education committee.
Yeah.
And certainly are involved in the planning and visioning for all of those projects. Which ones are you personally most attached to and giving time to?
One of my number one major projects was getting those questions put together, identifying what they would be, the discussion topics, and contacting the Linden Street Coffee House about putting them there, on the tabletop. Is what we initially thought. Well, that wasn't quite going to work because they already had tents there. So now we're looking at an alternative way of getting those questions inside the tents that are already there, in order to allow people to draw them out and talk about them. And we'll be exploring more about the best way to do that. We may find out that we've shifted. And there's a pizza shack in Lamoni, which is a hometown pizza place. And there are people gathered there. So we may put some of those cards. There'll be little cards there as well. So there's other locations. More than anything, we just want to help people start talking about the earth, care of the earth, and what we can do and be aware of it. So that's where my current focus is located. I'm very much an idea person too. So when we sit down and talk, I'll come up with ideas, of brainstorming ideas that we just toss off to each other and listen, to each other about what we can do to make a difference. So I really appreciate the team members that I'm working with. My neighbor, my backyard neighbor, Karis, she's young. They have a little boy that's 4 years old, she and her husband. She is passionate about living the gospel way, not just going to church and sitting and listening to a sermon. I invited her to be part of the education committee, and she came. I mean, she was eager to come. So I think she will be a great contributor to us. So it's those kind of things, try to get the word out and build some enthusiasm for what we're wanting to do, with helping make our little piece of the earth a better place for everyone.
Oh, I should say, is there anything else you want to say before we close?
I guess I'll just reiterate how important I think it is for us to recognize that we are responsible for what the earth is, what is happening on the earth, and that we should not find fault with others because we think they're not doing enough. It's easy to point fingers and say they're the cause of it all, but I think we need to take responsibility and find ways to build bridges instead of create barriers. It's so easy to create those barriers, but we've got to do a better job of building those bridges. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being a bridge builder.
We'll try.
All right.
Okay.
Been a joy talking with you.
Thank you, Susan.
Bye for now.